Well, hello and welcome back to the channel. I've had a couple of people ask me if I could tie up some of the flies that I'm using in the video. It's not exactly going to be by popular demand this, but I thought it'd be quite nice if I could show a few of the patterns and then you can copy them, and if a few people do that and catch some fish on them, then that's what this is all about really, isn't it? Just trying to help people out, see if you can pass on a tiny bit of knowledge that you've picked up along the years. This isn't the best camera for doing this. I've had to try and adapt my GoPro to do it, but we'll see how we get on with it. So I'm going to start with my favourite dry fly, which is my version of the Wickham's Fancy. This is a pattern that's been catching trout for about 140 years now, so there must be something in it. It's a great pattern if you're a bit like me and your eyesight's not as good as it used to be, because the gold and the ginger and the white of the CDC wing that I put on it just means you can see it so easily, and it's good, I think, when you're fishing a dry fly to be able to instantly pick up the fly when it lands and track it down. You don't want to be searching for the fly on the water. It's a brilliant evening fly because it can be taken for sedges or moths. It'll also take trout that are smutting, so they tend to come up and suck the fly down. It looks a bit like water going down a plug hole. It's also great up on the rougher streams on the moor that I fish, because it's got so much hackle on it. It's a great floating fly. Right, well, let's get started. Just going to put a bit of wax on the thread. Hook I'm using is a Hackle H130BL, size 16. I have to get used to not whacking the camera. And it's like a rusty brown sort of thread. You could use what you like really. I think if I have to be limited to just one dry fly, this would be it, because it's just so versatile for the sort of fishing I'm doing. And it is surprising, if you're fishing twin dry fly and you put this on with another pattern, how often this will be taken in preference. And the mainstay of the pattern is the ginger hackle. Let's see, now back here. I've got a really nice Metz cape for doing this, but I thought that's not really fair, is it? Because they're so expensive. So I'm going to tie this one with just a standard Indian cop cape, I suppose it is. And the first thing is to have a few fibres in for the tail. What I always used to call the whisks. I don't know if they're called the whisks anymore. But quick pinch and loop, pop that in there. Right, the secret to this pattern is the gold body and the ginger palmed hackle. Now it's meant to have like either a tinsel rib or a gold wire rib, but I've found that tends to cover up all the body on these smaller sizes. So for many years I used to tie this backwards. So I would tie the hackle in now, then the body, palmer this up along, and not bother with a rib at all, so that you didn't cover the gold of the body. And that's fine, except that after you've caught a few fish, this would tend to unwind because the trout have got teeth. So what I use now is I tie it the proper way, but I'm using some uni mono for the rib. So this is a fine and clear size 0.004. So you can use this to rib the palmed hackle, but it doesn't show up, you can't even hardly see it. So we'll tie the rib in first. And then for the body, I'm using some holographic gold medium. This is so much easier to work with than the old mylar tinsels, like trying to bend steel. This is easy to tie with this stuff. Right, and I'm just going to wind this all down together rather than cutting it off and getting a nasty step and then trying to wind the tinsel over a step. And go to about here, because we're going to put a wing in and then another hackle at the front, so give yourself more room than you think. And I'm just going to put a bit of varnish down over this thread. This goes back to, I think it was Richard Walker who did this originally for like peacock herl type bodies, just to hold them in place, but it also helps with your tinsel. You could use super glue, I suppose, if you wanted to. Line this up. How easy this goes on. Right, now I'm going to tie in the palmed hackle. Now if you were going to use this as a wet fly, you'd probably tie it so the curve of the feather was facing backwards. As it's a dry fly, I'm going to have it facing forwards. I hope that makes sense. Right, and then up through with the rib, just moving it slightly side to side, try not to trap the fibres. There we go. Hopefully you can see that it hasn't really covered up the body. See if I can get a better shot later on when I've finished it. Right. So for the wing I'm going to use 2 white CDC feathers. And I put the 2 curves of the feather back towards each other, line them up. Again, pinch and loop. I'm just going to adjust them now to the length that I want, which is just past the bend of the hook. Okay. Right, now the last job is to put the front hackle on. Again, same cape and everything. I don't know why it is the fish go for this flight so much, because it doesn't really represent anything, but you can't argue with the trout. I have read it's even meant to be good if you encounter flying ants, but I've never had a chance to use it in those conditions. A bit further back there. Okay, just finished now. I've never learned how to use the whip finish tools, I've always ever done it with my fingers. And a little bit of head cement on the front. And there we have it. That's my Wickham's Fancy, sort of. I can highly recommend this. I'd definitely put a couple of these in your box, size 16, size 14. Just give them a try. Come back to me, see what you think. Like I say, they're great. Great if you're fishing on fast, rough streams up on the moor. Oh, well, that's the first one. Surprising how difficult it is to actually tie and talk, really. You don't realise how much you're concentrating on the tying. But we'll see how this one goes, and let me know if you want any more and what patterns you might want me to do. Right, well, I'll catch you next time.